I want to welcome you to the interviews that I do. LaVonne, I know that we have met because of a mutual friend that we both respect who lives in this world of where coaching intersects the spiritual nature of human beings. And so one of the things that I've heard more about you than I've actually been able to experience with you, that you are in tune, that you're a woman who's not afraid to talk about spirituality, that you can blend coaching with spiritualism.
Absolutely.
Okay. So what would you want the audience to know about you, just as a context that they might not know about you until today?
Oh my goodness. Well, I would love them to know that, of course, you already gave my name, but I am LaVonne. And I'm a spiritual teacher, medium, as well as a speaker. And I work with women and men who have experienced loss in their life. My primary is loss of a loved one. And so I just assist them in taking that relationship to the next level, letting them know it's not about letting go. It's about actually receiving more from that relationship. And if there's something unresolved, actually healing that even in the realm of spirit and in the physical realm. And I just love knowing that there's just so much more. We're not just the physical. We are absolute spiritual. And we say it all the time. Feels a little bit cliche sometimes. We're spiritual beings having a human experience, but we'll keep repeating it till people start remembering it and actually living it. So that in a nutshell is what I do. And but I've been finding a lot of people having experiences with loss of self, loss of career. Those different types of clients are coming out of the woodworks. So it's not just so much about losing a child or losing a family member or friend.
But anytime there's a loss of any nature,
Yeah.
that is something that you can assist with as a teacher, as a medium, as a speaker. So you know a little bit about the coaching world.
Yes.
And so what would you share is your perception of what we do in coaching?
In coaching, giving people opportunities to actually do more in their lives, with support and with assistance, because I truly believe that people do have their own answers. I also know that we're not on the planet by ourselves to do it by ourselves, and that we deserve to have a team. And when I look at coaches, I look at them as a magnificent team that come in and support with ideas, concepts, and insights that maybe they never considered. It's like it just hits a button and it rings a bell and they go, oh my gosh, I never thought of that. And so that's what we're here for. We're cheerleaders, we're support, we're absolute love, and we're challenge. Challenging the old beliefs and ways of doing things so that we obtain new results that actually work.
I think that's the beautiful, just a beautiful explanation of coaching. And if we go back to the old constructs that Sir John Whitmore placed in Great Britain, raise awareness is one of the main constructs, and then hold someone accountable to doing something if it's appropriate with that new awareness. And I think you gave us great new language for that, LaVonne, just now. So I'm curious, you have a TED Talk, and of course, when we post this video, there will be links to your website and to your TED Talk so people can understand. But you work with people on loss, and my experience of you is you have had deep loss.
Yes.
You know what we're talking about when we say
that. Yes, a little bit too much experience, but beautiful in every way, bittersweet.
And maybe you could give some context to the listeners who haven't seen your TEDx talk, just maybe a high level highlight of what is the nature of some of this loss.
My first experience of loss would be with finding my baby sister in the bed, motionless, and I'm 6 years old and I know something's wrong. And going to the hospital, and she is DOAs, and she had passed from malnutrition. It was intentional. We were starved as children. And that's how I became, and my siblings became, ward of the state. And that was my very first experience of losing someone and experiencing trauma. And then, of course, having friends that have committed suicide, and having my mom, which when I say my mother, I'm talking about my first foster mother, who passed with cancer, and being by her bedside and speaking at her funeral, her celebration of life is what I call it now. And then fast forwarding to just other people just kind of coming and going. And the biggest one that really hit me and knocked me off my tush was the transitioning and the passing of my daughter, Kiva. Brilliant light, never saw it coming. Long story short, she was diagnosed with McCune-Albright syndrome. And when they hear the TED Talk, a little bit of that information's in there. In the end, she was 5 months old and 7 pounds. I had the decision to take her off life support. And so with much prayer and meditation and contemplation, I took her off life support, and I was able to hold her for an hour, and she passed in my arms. Yes, her body basically shut down. There was no, the doctor even told me, and the nurses, we're more humane to our animals than we're being with her, because she was, her condition was so rare, they wanted to study it. So they had specialists, and NIH oversaw her care from Maryland, and it was a big deal. And so that really catapulted me into my work even deeper, and with greater passion and desire to assist people with their pain and assist people with that hurt. I don't wish that on anyone, the loss of a child. I don't wish the loss of anyone on someone. It can be very painful, but it can also, again, take you to that place that you weren't willing to go. It took me to a place where it was time to step it up and step into my life's work. And I was very crystal clear about that. And I really take that seriously. So, and just my daughter coming back and communicating with me and connecting with me consistently. Every talk that I give, she is present. Every workshop that I do, she is present. A lot of times when I have my private clients, she comes in and she's present. And then I'll have callbacks where they'll say, your daughter, Kiva, she was here the other night when I was really struggling. So it's like we're a dynamic duo, and she's like, I'm not going anywhere. So even right now, as I'm speaking with you, she's like, hey, Mom, I'm here, and so that's, I put it out there that I said what you were asking me for, because I get a little off sometimes, because I get really passionate about this work.
Right. Well, and so it's one of your strengths, from my vantage as a coach, is you're inspired and you're channeling the information, and it may feel like you're off track, but really you're just channeling to us the things that lit up when the question was asked.
Yes.
And that actually segues to something that I wanted to discuss with you today, which is an intersection between the work that is done day in and day out with clients in coaching and this notion of spiritualism.
Yes.
And so I'm wondering, in your experience, how does spiritualism intersect with coaching?
Oh my goodness. Very well and very needed. But let's just say it brings in, I feel like if spiritualism isn't there's still that fragmented piece. There's this fragmentation that's going on. When we incorporate spiritualism into it, it's almost like completing the puzzle or bringing something more into that fragmented energy that brings alignment and brings calm and brings understanding. It's like a click goes off. At least that's what I hear my clients say. I never considered that. I never felt that. I'm feeling something and I'm not quite sure what it is. And then I ask them, well, what is it that you're feeling? And they start explaining what they're feeling. And then that's when I'm able to integrate and say, that is your spirit, because you are spirit first before you're anything else. We can coach you on anything. We can coach you on business. We can coach you on relationships. We can coach you on money. We can coach you on all these different things. But unless that component becomes a part of that, you're going to always maybe have a little success here, a little success there, but then you're always like, well, how come it gets great and then it just drops? You
Right.
know, because that key component of who you really are gets to be implemented, you know, and that's how you bring that spiritualism in. They usually will ask you the question. It's not even something you have to necessarily bring up.
Right. But anytime, in my experience, segueing off of what you're saying, anytime that we're working with somebody in a coaching opportunity, be it an executive, be it
Yes.
an entrepreneur, be it a stay-at-home mom, whomever it is, there's an opportunity at some point to assist them to see the invisible sense of who they are,
Yes.
even if it's reflected in behaviors or attitudes. Reflect that back so that they get a sense of the meanness or the I within.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Okay.
yes. And when they get that I
Yes.
and that meanness going on, then they begin to sit in the we-ness of it all. And
Yes.
that's what opens the floodgates. Yes.
I agree. I so agree. And so I'm wondering, what role from that vantage point does spirituality play in, say, let's branch it out and not just talk about coaching. What role do
Yes.
you sense it plays in an individual's life?
Spiritualism?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, that is, it's that part and that piece of them that is all knowing and all knowledgeable, whether they've forgotten about that or not. Most of the times people have forgotten about that. So it's about bringing them back into remembering all of that. It plays a key role in creating the results that they're wanting, because now they're being able, they have this opportunity to begin to tap into their authentic self. They have this opportunity to tap into their truest form that's not been tarnished by any belief systems. It has not been conditioned to any of that. And I don't know if I'm answering your question, but it's just, it's absolutely important to come to that peace point, which
Mm-hmm.
I call it the peace point, that spiritual point, in order to find resolution and solutions.
Right. And I would concur with that. In my experiences, I work with people, we work on an inner plumb line, and it's as if they understand their own guiding principles, if they
Yes.
know how to, and we also use multiple brain integration, if we know how to use a head, heart, and gut sense of things,
Yes.
then we can navigate life in general, not just work. And that thing that's guiding them is of a spiritual nature versus of an intellectual and only
Yes.
intellectual nature.
So when they can pull in the spirit part of who they are, the authentic part of who they are, and there are ways of doing that are very simple, even if someone is not spiritual. But when they begin to pull that in, guess what happens? Automatically, naturally, the heart, the mind, the gut, everything comes into absolute full alignment. And it doesn't mean it's not going to have its challenges, because we still got those beliefs that are pulling at us saying, no, 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 that's not the way. And I've tried that before. Or we connect to a religious aspect or a condition from that arena that triggers an old belief system that blocks it. But when we're able to sit in that, everything comes into full alignment, and it simplifies it. It actually makes it easier. So the old paradigm is it has to be hard. It has to be hard in order to gain the greatest value. Now, have I had painful and hard experiences and gained and grown and expanded? Absolutely. Would I change any of that? No, I would not. But at where I'm at right now, over 50, you know, I know the difference between joy and I know the difference between pain. I can choose now a lot easier, much easier. And
Right.
sometimes I still go through it, but when I'm going through it, what is the first thing I do? I sit with me. And then
And
I sit in the we-ness of it all.
you fit with the I and then know how to join with the we. And so,
It all comes together.
yes, yes. And, we're getting so much knowledge in neuroscience now to explain how this spiritual spark, this aliveness, the founder of nonviolent communication tells us that there is something alive in all of us, and that's that spiritual spark. And so it's like when we're working with one another, when we're working with clients, when we're asking clients to connect, we're asking, what is that aliveness? Can you use words? Because words are not things, they're just a representation of what you're processing or what you're experiencing. Share those with us, share what's alive, so that we know, how do we get those needs met, or how do we get that aspiration into reality. And so it's a matter of finding the truth and then living the truth, right?
And feeling it, because once you get the feeling, that can't be taken away.
That's
There's
true.
something about feeling it, and then when you speak it or I speak it and it comes out of our mouths, it becomes law. You know what I mean?
It
It's
becomes a
like
personal law. Yes. Yes.
yes,
And
personal law. Thank you.
what I'm getting from you, LaVonne, too, is when you say feel, it's not just an emotional, like a feeling, it's also a somatic, a body experience. So it's like
Oh
within
yes,
your own cells, you get your yes and you get your no's.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. And it's almost like, and I use my hand sometimes. I go. Sometimes it feels like this, literally like this. And you cannot deny it. It's almost like every fiber of your being is vibrating, is talking, is communicating, is locating, every cell, and you just can't deny it. And sometimes as a result, people will get the tear,
Yes,
or
because
they'll get the laughter.
yeah, we've hit something that's in the gut, that's in deep identity, that actually comes out in tears or laughter. It just is a guttural response because, again, we've hit on a truth. And I'm going to go back to something you said just moments ago. We might know our truth and we might want to live it. And knowing the truth might be one proposition of actually admitting what is, okay, this is my yes, or this is my no, or this is my, I'm going to do both, whatever your answer is. And then there is the next thing, which it might even be a little harder, which is, now I know, what do I do with that?
What do I do with that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How do I live it? Do you have any experiences where the integration of the spiritual topics that you discuss with clients then plays out in their daily lives? Do you have examples of how that's manifested itself?
How they've incorporated the spiritual and then taken into their lives and things like that. Lots. Let's see if I can pinpoint. And this is with clients or just with personal?
Um, well, you could give us one of each, because I feel like sometimes when we're sharing as coaches, and we don't want to be too anecdotal and self-referencing, and yet there are times when there's that thing about transparency about our own process. For instance, today I had someone come in and we were talking about her desires for her child, and where she's living right now, she's rebuilding her life. And so she's moved back in with her mother. She and her small child, they have a room together, and they have beds across the room from each other. And when we talk about it, and we got to the spiritual topic of what's your what and why, that you were willing to move back into your parents' home in order to reset. And she got tears in her eyes, and it's a spiritual answer of aspirations for her child and her child's life, that she was willing to take a step back to regroup and reset so that she could set a different trajectory for her child and for herself. And I see that as a combination of, that's not just an intellectual thing. That's not just thinking her way there. She had to use her spirit
Yes.
to know this is the right thing for me right now. And right, I'm using in quotes, because I think it was a Tao Te Ching that said, we get into this human illness of mental illness of thinking what's right and what's wrong. It's a binary world of right and wrong and black and white, when really we're missing the truth of what's real. So what's real for her right now is she's stepping back, regrouping, resetting for a stronger trajectory. And there's a reality that lives within her cells, in her DNA, in her bones, in this plumb line. She knows this is what's real and true for her now.
Yes, absolutely.
What stories could you share?
Well, recently was talking with a client, and she's way okay with me sharing this because she did it as a testimonial. So,
Awesome.
and she's just been having some challenges in her home where she has teenagers, and it's just like there's certain movies that she doesn't want played in her home. And she just feels like it brings the vibration down. It makes it very questionable, and she's very empathic, and so anything that feels like it's out of alignment for her shakes her to the very core. And so, and she just kept talking about the kids, and I said, okay, now let's talk about you. So I brought her back home. It's time to go to source. Now, it can be about the kids, but it's really not about the children. Here's an opportunity for you to take a look, and here's an opportunity for you to assess what's going on right now and make some new choices that actually works for you. And you are Mama Bear at the home, so you get to decide what you would like to see in your home and feel in your home. And I just gave her a couple of possibilities. Would it serve for you to just simply live your life in your spirit, bringing up those type of tools and those type of skills that actually shifts the vibration of your home, shifts the energy of your home, shifts the location. I call it location as well. If you're not enjoying this location, it's time to go to another location. And that just basically energy, moving energy. And she's like, oh, I never thought of that. And so what she began to do was make it about herself, be accountable, and just began to do her practice, in which her practice in the morning is the prayer, the meditation. It's also going through the house and singing. It's also turning on a type of music that she enjoys that fills her up and brings her joy. It's also burning her sage, and spraying her Florida water, whatever she's using for the day. And she came back and reported and said, oh my gosh, my house is like day or night. I realized now that it wasn't about my kids. It wasn't even about what they were watching. I said, you know what? And they could continue to be watching that stuff. Does it have to affect you? And she's like, absolutely not. I said, so it was more about her taking her power back, realizing that she wasn't a slave to her children or any other external forces, and just shifting her own location energetically, be able to do that. And she's pretty excited about that. So right now it's just more of, I didn't think I could do that, but now I know within myself, I've always been able to do that, or to be able to shift that energy or just brighten up everything around me. So that's one example that I can think of as well. I'd love to share the one about California being in the 2 earthquakes when they hit.
Yes, please.
Yes. And we had just arrived to California on the 4th of July, and the hotel wasn't ready.
2019.
2019. Yes, 2019. And we went out for breakfast, just waiting for the hotel to be ready. And we're sitting in there, we have our food, everybody's just chill, we're laughing, the kids are there, and my husband and I, and all of a sudden the table starts moving and the chairs start moving and the light starts swinging. And I'm like, what is that? I knew what it was. And I realized we were in the middle of an earthquake. That was the first one, the 6.4. And it was an hour away. But we felt it in Orange County. And I just remember being very nauseated and very uncomfortable. Now, what have I told my clients? What have I told myself? What is the practice I've been using when these type of things come up? Because I choose to look at these events as ceremonial, like a meditation. I didn't expect it to be an earthquake, but I got to jump into what I teach and use those tools, and I immediately saw it as a form of a meditation. And I felt myself getting sick and getting nauseated, felt like I was on the sea. And I just remembered to bring myself back to the breath and just simply breathe. And then in that moment, I got to simply trust. And I knew there was no accident, that I was in California at that time, and I'd only been on the ground 2 hours, and I was in the middle of an earthquake. So in that moment, I knew that source energy, the creator, my spirit, all that is, was getting my attention. And I realized, okay, it's game on. Let's do this. Was I scared? Yes, Did I get nervous? Yes. Did every fiber of my being shake? Absolutely. But I knew, and it was almost as if my body went into automatic spirit because I practiced sitting and being in the we-ness of it all daily. And then I was like, okay, we're going to be fine. So that's fine. Go to the Dodgers game that night. Nothing happens. Earthquake number 2. The following day, July 5th, 2019. And everyone's gone. I'm in the hotel by myself. I decided we had a full day. I was tired and it's just time to rest. I wake up, it's 8:15. I'm sitting up on the bed and I'm just doing a few things. 8:30 hits. And the bed starts to sway and the doors start to rattle. But I knew the second one was coming. I just knew that there was more to her. And it wasn't aftershocks because they had the aftershocks.
Can you describe your process of knowing?
What I did was when the first one hit, I knew that it was time to go a little bit deeper in my meditation. So I made sure that night I was in prayer. And my prayer is usually a prayer of appreciation. It's not an asking. So I'm in complete appreciation for the rumble and the roll and the shakeup. And I know that something else is being released from me. Any other traumas or experiences that get to I get to drop. This is what's taking place. I'm in appreciation that my family is safe. We are well. I'm in appreciation that when she decides to move and stretch her muscles, meaning Gaia, and do whatever she gets to do to create space and to create this clearing that gets to take place on a global level, I'm going to be safe and secure. All is well. And so I went to sleep that night on July 4th, and I had a little bit of a dream, and I just kept feeling like she wasn't done yet. So that's how I knew it was going to hit again. I just didn't know when. And so the following evening, she hit at 8:30. And I remember sitting on the bed, the fear came up again. And I said, but now we must stand. And so I got off the bed and I stood, and it felt like I was standing on quicksand or water. I could barely get my balance. I knew the entire building, the hotel, we were on the second floor. It was moving. I could feel the movement. Now, here's the deal. I really felt like I felt it deeper than I would have ever felt it in my entire life if I hadn't been in tune with my spirit, if I hadn't been in tune with my practices, if I was not connected to the Creator the way that I was, because I'm hypersensitive in a lot of ways. We all are to different degrees. And I went to walk through the doors that were French doors. They were swaying back and forth, and I just pushed the door open, and I stood there, and this is what I said. Dear Jesus, what do I do?
I love it.
He's another subject. We're really good friends. We hang out quite a bit. And because I really started feeling that fight or flight, even though I was in that meditative state. And then immediately I saw my daughter come into the room. I'm in the living room now. And then I began to call in Archangel Michael. I said, I just need to know that I'm okay. And my next question was, do I go outside? Because moving, it was really, I felt like at any minute, the building was just going to go.
You felt like it might cave in on you.
Oh, I felt like it was going to cave in. I felt like it was going to sink. And I heard a clear, audible no. You go underneath there and you sit and you feel all of it.
Wow.
Every bit of it. You're in ceremony.
So you're in
meditation.
You had one of these moments.
Yes.
Yes, you knew the truth. Okay.
I had to go straight to Zen. And I sat there, and everyone said it was only 30 seconds. It felt like a minute or two. And the floor was just moving underneath me. And I just sat there, and I just sat in the presence of I sat in the we-ness of it all, the spirit of it all. And then when it was done, I was alive, I was breathing, I was shaking, but I knew it was okay. Okay. So, and then they came home and they were all laughing and joking about how fun and great it was that they were in the car and they were rocking and rolling while the earthquake was going, and because they were parked. And I just looked at them like they were crazy, meaning my family. Now, what I learned from that, and a few things I heard at the same time, was surrender and trust. You are not in control of all of this that's going on externally around you, but you do have some control. You do have some choice on how you're going to experience when there is a shakeup in life, when something comes on you and you don't see it coming, it's unexpected. That you are completely encircled and surrounded and supported and loved and cared for, and so are your loved ones and your friends and even those you don't know yet. Trust that. So that was the biggest experience from that experience. Now, what I did that night was a different story when I went to sleep. So before I went to sleep, I put headphones in and I went and I just decided I was going to, since we're all part of the we-ness, right? We're all part of the one. And here's the thing about when we step into the spirit of who we are, then we're able to relate and connect with the others. We're able to handle relationships a whole lot. I don't even like to use the word better, but better or smoother. We're able to make such a connection and integrate more into our lives because we begin to see that it is a we-ness going on, you see? And so I decided I wanted to connect with Mother Earth. I wanted to connect with Gaia. So I went in and I asked her, what can I do? I'm experiencing that you're still rumbling. I can feel there's still stuff going on. What can I do? Can I enter? And I literally just closed my eyes and I just visualized myself going in. And I began to see just this most beautiful illuminated light. And I saw the cracks in the ground and I just began to fill those cracks with just more of this luminous light, just from my love. It was just love. And then as I began to feel this love and began to feel this light, because I was absolutely sitting in the we-ness of it all, the spirit of it all, I didn't see a separation of any of it. I knew that we were all there at that particular time for a reason. And then I started seeing these beautiful white flowers come up through the cracks. And then there was just so much appreciation for the experience, for the fear that came up and through it, and realizing that she wasn't about bringing, causing me panic, but just that it was a necessary and needed expansion of us globally as a planet. And that any prayers that we give to her or meditation or light we bring to her, it does support and it does assist, and it's greatly appreciated. And so I really got to like fine tune my, not only just being connected within myself, but also even more expansion and connection with the world as a whole. And then I went to sleep.
Beautiful. It's so, you're using words like ceremony and understanding the we, and I feel like our job in coaching is to help that individual understand the I within the we.
Absolutely.
But if they understand better who they are and how they connect and how they gain wisdom and how they have a divine direct link to source, whatever their source is, they almost become this sphere. They then can join like Venn diagrams with others, and then in that intersection create something new. But then another sphere can join, and then if we have a collective of all of us together within the joining parts, we innovate, we aspire, we take things to the next level. And I believe that mankind has forgotten that this is what we're for, with this roundness and this interconnection versus edges that are square and hard that poke and prick against each other. So let's talk about your practice. I think there'll be coaches and other people that are interested. You listed off, when we were first talking, the things that you do for a living. And now that we're talking with an audience listening in, I'd love for you to say all the things that you might do with an individual that sort of blend this realm of mentoring and coaching another person or teaching another person with the sense of the spiritual gifts you have. So what are the things that you do with individuals?
Well, first of all, I make sure that I do not ask anything of them that I do not ask of myself. So,
Brilliant.
that's absolutely key. If I find that I am out of alignment, then my work is out of alignment, and I may be able to pick up a little bit of an insight or a little bit of an intuitive or whatever, but not be able to give them 100% of spirit. Because the first thing that I absolutely do every day is I go into my daily practice. I'm in my prayer, and it's just a heartfelt prayer, no sketched out prayer. I'm in my meditation. I'm sitting and allowing myself to be absolutely present with my divine spirit. And then I do the expansion of being in the we-ness of it all. And then I ask, how can I best serve this individual today? What are they wanting? What are they needing? What are they committed to having? What's going to serve their highest in this moment? Because sometimes they'll call about a specific thing, but that's not what's serving their highest. The one thing they're trying to skip over is the very thing that Spirit's trying to get their attention to address. And when they address it and they take care of that, then guess what? Everything else opens up. So
Right.
a person can be speaking to me, but their soul is telling me another thing. They'll say, I don't want to be in a relationship. They're just, well, I'm disgusted. I don't want anything else to do with it. And I said, well, that's really nice and sweet and all, but your soul is saying a different thing. It's saying it wants it more than ever before. And right now, you are in the fear of it all. What if I make another mistake? What if I can't trust myself enough that I can see red flags or see the peace flag, in this situation. And people really love that. They love the honesty. Now, here's the deal. I go where they're at, and usually I stay within the question that they're asking because I truly believe in honoring free will.
Yeah, I think that's a main construct of coaching is meeting the
I
person.
don't want mine taken.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But a lot of times by the time people come to me, they know that gloves off, and they'll say whatever. And I say, okay, we can do whatever, but I also need you to be absolutely crystal clear on your intention and to be absolutely specific in what you're asking, and only ask what you really, 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 really want additional insight into, because you may get a few surprises along the way. So absolutely. So I do hold them accountable. I hold myself accountable. I make sure that I bring in spirit in the practice. Spirit, and I'm talking about like for the mentors, the coaches, and everybody else, when they are truly tapped in and tuned into their spirits, that will expand their information for their clients. It will get them out of the way in ways they've never imagined. And it will actually build and create even more people wanting to come and be with them or to sit with them.
Yes.
Right now, people are looking for honesty. They're looking for people being authentic with them. They're looking for kindness and gentleness as well. But love can be very firm because it's very discerning, and it knows how to, and people will say, well, there are no boundaries with love. Let me tell you something. There is wisdom in even that. Sometimes boundaries are important. And so when people began to really tap into who they are spiritually, into the spirit self, they began to, in the word that keeps coming up, this came up a couple of times, their expansion, like how you said, there's a piece here, there's a piece here. It's called expansion, and to the point where it's just explosive.
Yes.
In the most beautiful and most brilliant way.
It is. I know when I have an entrepreneur, let's say, that's struggling with their business, as soon as they come back to self and soul, and they take care of that, and they honor that, and they nurture that, it expands into everything they do. And I want to ask you, LaVonne, what training have you had? How did you find that you had this gift to be a medium? How did you get to where you are? What was sort of your path to being where you are professionally?
Well, I've been in the closet for a very long time.
There's damn
I could have used
closets that
you.
we get stuck in, right?
So many closets. I really could have used you as my coach. Probably still could. So, hey, we'll talk about that later.
We'll talk
But,
about that.
see, I can do all the spiritual stuff. It's the business stuff that I'm like, do I really have to do that? Yes, LaVonne, both parts of the hemisphere you must use. So for a long time, honestly, I was in the closet about it. I would just talk to friends and acquaintances. I mean, I've been doing this for 25, maybe 30 plus years, but only fully came out of the closet like really 5 years ago.
Wow.
You know, where it wasn't just like, hey, let's go to coffee and let me just pick your spirit for an hour. You know what I'm talking about.
I do.
And then I go home exhausted and don't know why. It's just, the exchange has not been quite balanced. So I would say as a child, I've always had the ability to connect with, I would call it my angel friends. Growing up in the foster care system was very challenging for me. And that's where, when I said Jesus is one of my best friends, he's like really a badass. I'm sorry if I'm not supposed to swear, but
we use badass all the time. Yeah.
Okay, great. That's my favorite word. You know, he's a rock star and he's just amazing. But I just remember those times where I'd be alone and there was nobody there, and he would just come and sit by my bedside with me and just talk to me as a child and tell me it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I'm here for you. It's going to be tough for a little bit, but you're going to make it through. So I've always believed that I wasn't just talking to myself. You know, and then of course, being in the first foster home, she was very Bible Belt kind of woman. And I, of course, at age 6 till I was about 13, was going to church, and I was walking up and down the streets with the Bible in one hand and pointing my finger at other people. And I'm a kid, and having book Bible study in the backyard on top of the picnic table. And I would go to all the neighborhood doors and knock on the door and say, it's church time, get to the backyard. Did I mention my father was a preacher? And he still had his kids taken away. But anyway, I digress. So just growing up, learning different cultures from being in different foster homes, and being part of Pentecostal church, the bishop, the Baptist church, and going to the Catholic church because I loved Mother Mary, and then being in a home where there were Jehovah's Witnesses, never joined, but got to go for 2.5 years. And then just going to a home where they didn't go to church. I mean, so, my life has been full of experience when it comes to religious things as well as spiritual things. Because I believe that people bring the spirituality into those environments and experiences.
Yes.
But just that path, I can look back and see where it started. It started when I was that 6-year-old, seeing my sister transitioning, and really being able to tap in, tune in, and know that something was wrong, and something got it back in that day. It was wrong. Now I can see the higher purpose and the higher call behind it. She really saved our lives, you see. And so when I tell stories to empower, not to, oh, woe with me. The intention is to empower. But I just started, as far as my training goes, I didn't think I was smart in school, but I did it anyway. And I tried a little bit of community college. And after my daughter transitioned, I went back to school. I went to massage school and I aced it. I did great. And I thought, well, maybe I'm not that stupid. So then I went back to community college and I did massage for 12 years. So that, honestly, the 12 years of doing massage therapy opened me up to a lot of other different things. I've done workshops and programs, and I choose not to name them because I've had some real revelations about things, but those programs actually assisted me in trusting again and owning my power and stepping more into the truthfulness of who I am. And I bless them and honor them for what they taught me.
Right.
And then it was time to get out the 4 walls and do the work. And that's what I did. Finally got my degree at SLIC in health sciences. And then I thought, well, hey, well, maybe I should go try up at the U. Maybe they'll take me. And honestly, ever since high school, I always wanted a degree in communications. So I went up to the U and I completed my bachelor's in communications, and woohoo! So I graduated in my early 40s from college. Finally, it took me a while. Life happened, you know.
Right.
And so that's what I do. I communicate.
Yeah. So in so many ways, like the massage therapy, tactically with the body, now the other communication pieces, but you know, having these individuals in your life pass on and then knowing that they were by your side, I can see how while you were educated in one traditional conventional way, you were also being mentored in another.
Oh, and I didn't tell you that I came to Utah as a convert to the LDS Church.
You did not tell me that.
I did not tell you that. And then I got married to my second husband and became a Presbyterian, and then I became a Buddhist. Hey, what do you want? Oh, wait a minute, reverse. Let me not tell a lie. Because when I was doing massage therapy, I was also trained as a Reiki master, taught Reiki for years, and then Spirit said, okay, enough with teaching that. It's time for you to go, it's time to do something different and just to shift the energy. And I was Buddhist at the time when my daughter was born and when she transitioned. And then I remarried and decided, well, I'll just go back to Presbyterian Church. I've done mostly all of them anyway. You know what I mean? So let's just do this. So that was part of my backup too. So I took tenets in the Tibetan Buddhism as well, and that got me through my grieving process as well.
Wow.
So there's a lot.
So let's tell people, if they want to work with you, how do they find you, and what would be their knowledge inside their little switch that would say, okay, I need to work with LaVonne?
Okay, so the way to find me is on Facebook. Also, my page is The Spiritual Teacher on Facebook. Highly recommend just going to the website, and that's LaVonneWells.com. So that's LaVonne Wells, WELLS.com. And that's how to find me. Everything that they're wanting to know, the information is there. But you can find me there. There's good information, lots of videos, so they can kind of get a feel for who I am. They can also, the way to know that spark or that energy says, hey, go work with her. You know, I tell people when they ask me a lot of times, what do you do? I said, I'm an enabler. I enable people to go within and find their own strength through being a spiritual teacher and a medium. And so I would invite people to look at it that way as well. But the main thing is, if you're wanting more, just to go deeper, and you know there's more, and you're frustrated and you're irritated, and it's like, or the world is just driving you nuts, because a lot of people face it. There's a lot of chaotic energy going on right now, and I'm doing everything in my being to assist people in calming that energy.
Right.
I don't know if you saw, did you, or I bet you are, and thank you.
Yes.
There's many of us out here. Thank you. I don't know if you saw the video on my personal timeline. I did a Sunday night insight, and I did a live video, and then I did a prayer and a blessing at the end of it. I recommend anyone to just go on my personal page. It's a public post. They can look at that and get a glimpse of how I work. But the bottom line is, if you're just wanting more, you're just ready to tap in, and it's not about taking anything away from anyone. It's about bringing you back to your natural, beautiful, wise, powerful self. That's what spirit is. Just bring you back to your truest form.
Right. I've heard you say, and I've experienced this not only in my life, but in my partner's life as well, is that some individuals who transition that we may have known in life are right here. And
oh my gosh.
Part of their purpose is to be the posse on one side.
Yes.
And have us be on this side. And it's a partnership, that we're not doing things alone.
Teamwork.
Yep. Teamwork.
And I wanted to let them know as well, if they're locally in a local area, once a month I have a thing called Connections and Insights. It's an event it's a very intimate event. Usually I take 11 to 12 people to come out. It's the 4th Wednesday of every month, and it's in my home. It's a very intimate setting. We do a lot of readings there. They can bring any question, anything, relationship, career, someone that has transitioned, has passed.
And where do you live? So people
I
can.
live in Layton. I'm in Layton, Utah. So
Okay.
we get people from Park City, from Brigham City, from Provo, from Salt Lake. We get people from all around that come out, and those usually fill out fairly quickly. So just on the website they can register for that, and it's a great way to get to know me as a person and also the work that we do as a group. So.
This is beautiful. Well, LaVonne, so we're going to sign off from this interview, but I so appreciate you sharing your wisdom with this group. So those of you who are watching, look in the links. You're going to find more on LaVonne, and thank you for being with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's an honor. Thank you, thank you, thank you.